Her scream didn't sound like it came from this world. It sliced right through the sticky heat of that Texas afternoon, sharp as a wounded animal's last cry. When Jacob Hale nudged open the stall gate at the cane spread, he wasn't expecting the mare he'd ridden out to claim. Instead, there was a young lady sprawled on the packed earth floor, quivering so fiercely that the hay scattered around her quaked like a breeze rustling brittle weeds. Her knees were splayed out rigid, and she kept straining to draw them shut, but each try fired a stab of agony through her frame, fierce enough to wrench another yelp from her throat. Jacob went still as stone. He'd patched up battlefield gashes, splinted shattered limbs, watched fellows stitched by sheer grit alone, but he'd never witnessed a soul in torment like hers. Isolated in that hushed stable, while the blaze outside blazed on, oblivious as ever, she struggled to prop herself up on one arm. Her words splintered like dry timber. She murmured, "I can't bring my legs together." Then the sobs hit again, not from embarrassment, but from a hurt so profound it haunted every inhale she managed. Jacob sank to one knee next to her. He held back from touching her just yet, didn't want to spook her more. He spotted the dark welt snaking up her inner thighs, the angry puffiness where flesh had chafed bloody, faded cord scars circling her ankles, marks of somebody prying her apart, holding her wide till it ripped her hollow from within. She fumbled to shield her thighs with shaky palms. "Please, don't abandon me here. It burns. I can't budge." Jacob felt a leaden ache bloom in his ribs. This wasn't some mishap, not a tumble from the saddle. This was malice. Malice drawn out deliberate. Malice from the one sworn to guard her. He eased his hat to the dirt and murmured soft, like coaxing a skittish colt. "Ma'am, name's Jacob. I am not here to harm you. Let me take a look, see how to ease this for you." She dipped her chin, faint as a shadow. Her tone faded to a spectral hush. "I'm Sarah. Please, mister, get me out of this place. Please." Jacob edged nearer, deliberate and even-keeled. He dipped a hand to cradle her thigh, just light enough to scan for blood. The instant his fingers grazed her, Sarah yelped and latched onto his collar with both fists, nails biting in like a swimmer snagging driftwood in a flood. That's when it hit him. She'd been lying there for hours, perhaps days. Warmth poured off her inflamed skin, the feverish glow screaming that sickness had already sunk its teeth in. Jacob Hale wasn't the sort to turn tail from misery. Never had been. And he was not about to leave now. Not for her. He glanced toward the main house. Yes, deserted. No trace of the spouse she'd mentioned. No whisper of a living being who gave a damn if she drew breath or not. He swung back to her. "Sarah, I'm hauling you clear of here. That's my vow." Her lids fluttered wide, stormy with dread and a spark of longing, dueling fierce. She rasped, voice quivering, "Mister, if you pull me through this, will the shadows chase you down too?" And Jacob felt that plea land heavy as thunder, because he grasped the raw truth. Yes, trouble was barreling in. So, picture this. You're rooted in that dim stable, a desperate woman pleading for mercy, and her monster bound to slink back any breath now. Would you haul her free, same as him? Sarah gripped Jacob like he was the lone anchor in a shattering storm. Her breaths hitched short and ragged, and each shift to cinch her legs sent a hiss of torment snaking through her. Jacob knew she couldn't linger in that pen another heartbeat. So he slipped one arm beneath her back, the other under her calves, and scooped her up, tender as his weathered bones allowed. She drew a sharp gasp, not panic, but a sigh of release. He bore her into the sweltering Texas glare, her temple nestled to his heartbeat, knuckles still knotted in his shirt front. For a beat, She blinked at the endless flats, like the vastness beyond that gloom had slipped her mind clean away. A lazy summer gust kissed her cheek, and just that nudged fresh tears loose, gentle, unsteady ones. "Easy there. I have you steady." He settled her atop his gelding, propping her careful so her thighs didn't graze saddle leather. His tone stayed even, the gravelly warmth forged from decades of rough miles. She peered down at him. Fear swam in her gaze, but a flicker danced too. Small, fragile, trust, stirring awake after an age in the dark. He swung up behind, encircling her firm to keep her from tipping, but with each clip-clop, Sarah drew air a touch fuller. Jostles jarred her wince, yet she bit back every murmur. Not a peep. She tipped her crown to his shoulder and breathed, "You're truly spiriting me off." He bobbed his head. "That's right, ma'am, and we are not glancing rearward." The trek dragged on for hours, till the sun slid westward, spilling amber across the scrublands. Jacob chatted now and then, light scraps, the sky's mood, the soil's stubborn ways, yarns of wild mustangs he gentled back in his reckless youth. Nothing weighty, nothing to make her curl inward, just threads to tether her to the now, maybe nudge the terrors skulking her backbone a step back. By dusk, when Hale Ranch crested the rise, Sarah shivered from sheer weariness. The pale rails, the barn's weathered crimson swing, the low bellows drifting from distant meadows, it all washed over her like a fever dream, slipping into another's tale, one where the breeze didn't sting and voices rose without thunder. Jacob ferried her over his threshold, called for grizzled Mrs. Ellis, the keeper of his hearth, and bid her fetch steaming basins and crisp cloths. Sarah mumbled regrets for the hassle she spelled. He waved it off. "No, ma'am, not any trouble at all." He laid it out plain, and for the first time in ages, she let belief sink in. She sank into slumber. But as her lashes dipped, a barb hooked back through her thoughts. Her man, Victor, he'd sniff her trail. So, mull this over. What lengths will a vicious sort go once his playthings vanished? And how is Jacob going to brace when that fiend storms Hale Ranch? Locked and loaded? Sarah had notched just 2 days at Hale Ranch when the storm cloud broke. Jacob clocked the haze first, a snaking plume coiling above the split-rail edge. Hooves pounding urgent, riders with grudge in their gallop, not neighborly nods. Sarah dozed within. Bolstered by bolsters Mrs. Ellis had plumped with sun-bleached wool, so Jacob eased out soundless, latching the panels soft, no call to let the snarls barreling in jolt her awake. Victor Kane reined up dead center in the yard like he held deed to the dust. He wrenched his mount short, jabbed a quivering digit Jacob's way, and snarled, "Haul my woman out here now!" The bark split the air like rifle crack. Jacob didn't twitch. He'd punched cattle since boyhood, and bluster from hotheads rarely shook his spurs. But Victor's glare, searing, venomous, the way he flung woman like a brand of ownership, that kindled a slow blaze low in Jacob's gut. He vaulted down and bulled close. "You snatched her, pilfered what's mine, I'll yank her home myself." He held level. She's wounded, she's spooked, and she rode off willing because she craved the parting. Craved? That one's chattel. She heels to my word. That barb snapped Jacob's tether. He closed the gap firm. Not this day, not any after. Victor lunged, palm slamming chest. Jacob shoved return fiercer. Victor lashed blind, fist clipping just shy of Jacob's socket, splitting hide and smearing sight red. Before the wranglers could pile on, a hail hand burst from the loft, bellowing Jacob fought with backup today. And that lit the fuse. Victor charged anew, flailing fury over finesse, as his crew surged tailing. Jacob bobbed, snagged Victor's lapel, and bashed him against the stock tank's rim. The hands dove in, but Jacob and the hand flowed seamless, honed from endless herd hauls into muscle these pups couldn't fathom. Jacob flung one face first to gravel, while the hand reefed the other by the scruff, yanking a yelp like a gut-shot hound. Then Jacob wheeled to Victor, scrabbling up Rabbit as a cornered boar. He collared him tight. You shadow her once more, you'd best pack a parson, and your final breath scripted. Victor reeled back, quaking fury but gutless for the lunge. He hawked phlegm to the ground, clambered aboard, and bolted, hollering, this grudge lingered long. Jacob lingered in the drifting grit, lungs pumping, certain the scrap had barely sparked. Within, screened by oak, Sarah had caught scraps enough to set her shuddering afresh. But this quake? Different breed. Somebody had planted firm between her and the beast who sandwiched her, and now the gale proper gathered. If you're hanging on this thread, thumb that follow gentle-like, so the yarn doesn't fray on you. Snag a mug of chamomile, nestle deep and spill. What's the hour there? Where you perched, and tuning in from whence? Victor galloped off that dawn, but the grit he churned hung thick, refusing to drop. Jacob sensed it, Sarah did, bone deep. The breeze weighed denser, like the spread itself braced, lungs paused. That twilight, Jacob hunched at his rough-hewn board nursing bitter brew, eyes boring planks as if wisdom hid in the grain. But his mind looped to Sarah, tucked safe in the guest quarters at last, cocooned in quilts, and how a single shadow could shred it all if Victor dragged badges to the gate. He surged up at length, snagged his brim, and said, "Mrs. Ellis, watch her close. I have a friend to speak with." The clip to Fort Worth chewed an hour, give or take. Jacob spurred hard, reckless for his years, but fret can whip a pony airborne. Dusk bled low when he hitched outside the lawman's den. Within, Marshal Nate Fowler slouched at a desk, drowned in scrawls he plainly ignored. He glanced up sharp as Jacob crossed threshold. "Well, Hale, that expression only crosses my path when trouble has spilled loose. Sit down before your knees buckle." Jacob dropped, but his chin locked vice-tight. Nate heard the spill, every raw edge, every welt etched on her, every barb Victor had flung from his rig that noon. Nate eased rearward, gnawing cheek lining, his tell for corralling calm. "Jacob, that's a felony, black and white, but justice here is crooked as a snake fence. You know that. We both do." "I understand," Jacob said, "but I am not sending her back to that pit, not while my pulse jumps in these veins." Nate bobbed deliberate. "Fair enough. We play it square then. Get the doctor to write a sworn account. Find witnesses in Wichita who saw Victor swinging at her. Bring Sarah in when she's braced to speak. Bundle it for Judge Harlan before Victor spins his tale." For the first time that shift, a sliver shed from Jacob's yoke. Not vanished, just shy of crushing. He rose up, clasped Nate's grit, and the marshal added, "Bring her at dawn. I'll ensure Harlan hears you both." Dawn never dawned proper. Harlan tabled the plea, mumbling for extra voices, ironclad affidavits, so the fortnight blurred in Jacob's saddle, pounding Wichita to Fort Worth, prying neighbor nods, scraping statements, even coaxing the doctor out twice to examine Sarah and record his notes. Nightly, Sarah queried progress. Nightly, Jacob urged, "Hold on a little longer." As Jacob shouldered out, Violet bruised the vault and gas flares winked alive down Main. Back at Hale, Sarah perched upright, awaiting, fingers knotted like prayer beads. She breathed faint. Is he still hunting me? And Jacob knew. Truth-tellin' time. This tussle was stoking hotter. So, weigh this. What verdict falls when a Fort Worth bench weighs a brute's claim against a woman's grit to testify? Hearing mourn, the hall in Fort Worth chilled sharper than any norther Sarah had braved. She perched by Jacob, palms clenched, exhales fluttering like wind-whipped sage. The doctor testified first, then a shopkeeper, then a neighbor who'd spied Victor's roar scattering fowl. Victor? Absent. The posse hadn't snared him yet. At last, Sarah's turn. She levered up slow, stance wobbly, but her voice rang clear, threading every nook. No litany of throbs, no plunge to blackest nights, just yearnings voiced plain, craving haven, craving nights sealed from dread. When she trailed off, even Harlan hung mute for long beats. Then he cleared his throat and dropped the line that reshaped her path. Harlan decreed a stay-away order, provisional, barring Victor from Sarah and Hale Ranch alike.
Full reckoning cued soon, once voices swelled and lawmen collared victor. Not the clinch, but the trailhead to triumph. The chamber warmed, unburdened, near sacred. Sarah sank, and the gust she loosed, first unbound draw in an era. Jacob met her gaze, she held his. Words? Superfluous. Some instants whisper volumes in hush. Seasons wheeled. Sarah pitched in the cookhouse, then the plot, then trailside with the string once vigor bloomed. Dusk after dusk, Jacob caught her chuckling with Mrs. Ellis or humming low over ironed hems, and a quiet certainty rooted. She mended, he did too. One frosty dawn, Sarah aroused ashen, lightheaded, and Mrs. Ellis beamed that elder wisdom, secrets long sensed. Midday, the doctor sealed it. Sarah bore new life. Telling Jacob he froze stock still, then plunked a chair like a sucker punch. She fretted dismay, but he let out a soft chuckle, thumb damp from lashes, and said, "Well, I will be. Isn't that something? Life endures, doesn't it?" For Sarah, more than a child, vindication. She'd bent, never snapped. Proof grace cultivates where venom withers. Leagues off across flats, Victor caught wind of the news. He stilled, stunned she'd quicken after all. Then features warped, sour remorse laced with venom, as he muttered, "This grudge dragon eternal." And for the first stretch in forever, she brimmed worthy of devotion. True sort, hushed kind, the steadfast flame. Now, consider this. Had you worn Jacob Hale's boots, would you have dared stride in where others balked? And to Sarah, guts to rebuild when fate's decreed ruin? If this tugged your heartstring a whisker, tap that heart. It fuels the fire more than you'd guess. And subscribe so the next saga doesn't dust by unseen. Refill that mug, burrow comfy, and share. Where's your vantage this evening?